The NFL season is here. Yo, dudes, Oren here, and welcome to Primetime Preview. This is going to be a series of videos where I am going to preview the primetime games for this upcoming season. I probably won't get to all of them, but I'm going to do as much as I'm able to, and frankly, the ones that I feel like doing. Man, there is a game coming up that I really feel like previewing to the best of my ability, and that is the Detroit Lions at the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions, for Thursday Night Football to kick off this 2023-2024 NFL season. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to talk a little about each team's offense, each team's defense, each team's special teams, what I know of those things, as well as each of the coaching, and then give a final verdict. And then I'm gonna say like who I give the check mark to for who has the advantage for offense, who has the advantage for defense, so on and so forth. And I'll probably highlight one specific player who I think may or may not make a difference on that particular unit for each of their teams. And we'll just kind of go from there. So we're going to go with offense, and since Detroit is the road team, we will start with them first. We've been talking about them all off season after the turnaround that they've had. They were a top five offense last year in several categories, like fourth or fifth in yards and fourth and fifth in touchdowns and that sort of thing. And they don't look like they're going to be slowing down. They drafted dynamic running back, as well as a tight end who looks like he could break tackles really well. And I think we had a really good offense that just got stronger in the offseason as far as the Lions are concerned, in the way where they want to have their playmakers break more tackles and get more yards, and turn like an 8-yard play into a 13-yard play whenever they can, and just try to put more points on the board that way. And the one player I kind of want to talk about who I think could make the difference on this offense just so happens to be David Montgomery. He's a halfback, the running back that replaced Jamal Williams. And he played for the Chicago Bears. He played for them for 4 years and got at least 800 rushing yards from them, as well as some passing yards every here and there. The way I think this game is going to go, I think the Lions are going to run the ball and try to kill the clock as often as they can to keep the Chiefs' offense off the field for as long as they can. And the Lions have the offensive line to be able to make that rushing attack happen. And I think David Montgomery is going to be that running back who's going to make that happen. He's going to break those tackles, and he's going to be responsible for a lot of the yards and the key plays that the Lions get. He had his overall PFF grade was 67.9 from last year. His run grade from that was also 67.9, while his receiving grade was 64 from last year. So for as well as he did in Chicago with an offensive line as good as the Detroit Lions, not to mention arguably the best offensive coordinator in the game right now, looks like he'll be involved in some schemes that will really get him some yards, and he'll be one of the keys to the Lions' victory will be through David Montgomery. So that's what I'm thinking with there. And Jahmyr Gibbs too. He'll probably most likely have a role, but since he's a rookie, it might not be as big as Montgomery's from what I'm expecting, at least not to start. That being said, he was the 12th overall pick, so Gibbs might be used maybe as a wide receiver or as a running back. We'll find out what Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell and them have in store for that. Now for the Chiefs offense, this is no secret. It's the number one offense in the league last year, and arguably the last several years. They have the Michael Jordan of the NFL in Patrick Mahomes. They have Travis Kelce. Then again, they might not, depending on what is going on with his knee. Last I checked, he is questionable, so he may play, he may not play, but those two are going to be the keys. I don't want to try to focus on, the big dogs like those guys too much, because I want to try to focus on other good players who I know are probably going to be a key. And I think for the Chiefs, the key, one of those players I'd like to highlight here is their center, Creed Humphrey, who was drafted just a couple of seasons ago in the second round. And he's worked his way up to, by many people's standards, the best center in the NFL. Frank Ragnow is right up there as well, but at the moment, it seems like Creed Humphrey appears to be the best one. Last year, his PFF grade was 89.9. His run blocking grade was at 91, which are basically like A pluses for those of you who don't understand PFF grades. And then pass block grade was 81.3, which is also really good. But what I'm thinking is the Chiefs are probably going to do that nobody is really expecting is handing the ball off to Pacheco, their running back, as more often than what we would anticipate, and going up the middle, and Creed Humphrey is right there blocking. So I do believe that's one thing that's going to be happening. And the other thing is the Lions defense, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. Their defensive line has gotten really strong, stronger than what people believe that they are, and that could be problematic for the Chiefs offensive line, who was one of the best offensive lines in the NFL last year, and they probably will be again this year. But Creed Humphrey, from what it looks like, is the best of them, and he's really gonna be the nucleus of that. And I think he will have a factor with blocking for Pacheco if the Chiefs decide to switch it up and go that route, as well as stopping the Lions, the defensive linemen. So, but yeah, no matter what, this Chiefs offense is going to put up points on the board. You are not going to have a pitcher's game, so to speak, with the Chiefs offense. Your best bet is probably to beat them is probably going to be a shootout. That's just how good the Chiefs offense consistently has been. And while the Lions offense is really good too, they'll probably put up a lot of points, but I'll give this check mark to the Chiefs just because, they have Andy Reid and Matt Nagy, doing the offense there. They got Patrick Mahomes, the best player in the game. He could do anything and basically twirl his way out of anything and run and sidearm pass and do all sorts of bonkers things. And Travis Kelce may or may not be in the game, but I think even if he's not, Mahomes will still probably do really well. And the wide receivers are a bit of a question mark, but I think it's more of a balanced thing where Mahomes will be able to pass enough to any one of them to get that job done there. So again, the check mark is going to the Chiefs for that. Let's talk about their defenses. The Detroit Lions, they revamped their secondary. They drafted a linebacker, Jack Campbell, who may or may not get a start or get much playing time, but the linebacking core has improved significantly from what we're hearing from the likes of Derek Barnes and those type of players. Their edge rushers, they have a deep rotation now. Aiden Hutchinson going to have a sophomore year. He'll hopefully he will get up there with the likes of Nick Bosa, Matthew Judon, and those types. And the defensive line, the interior tackles will probably have a big role as well. And you have Cam Sutton, who's new in the secondary, a cornerback. You got Brian Branch, who's going to be the slot cornerback, but he's also really good at safety, so he should be good at chasing down people running with the ball and tackling them, which will definitely come in handy with quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, because that was the one thing that the Lions were struggling with, was dual threat quarterbacks that ran with the ball. And I also forgot to mention too that the Lions do play man-to-man coverage, top one or top two in the NFL, press man and that sort of thing, which actually gives an advantage to the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes he was top one, top two in the league last year in touchdown passes against teams that primarily did man coverage. So look for that there. But the key player I wanted to focus on, though, is the Lions' defensive lineman, interior defensive tackle, Aleem McNeil, possibly nose guard, possibly 3-tech, who knows. What I was talking about with Creed Humphrey, he'll probably match up against Aleem McNeil once or twice at least. And for the Lions, key to being able to stop Patrick Mahomes, they got to get pressure on him through the defensive line. And besides the likes of Hutchinson, I think from the interior, Aleem McNeil is the best candidate to do that. He came to training camp lighter than he was before. And I really was convinced that when the Lions drafted Broderick Martin this past NFL draft, that McNeil was going to kind of switch to a new role, be like a 3-tech, 5-tech, and have more of a role of rushing the passer and less trying to stop the run. But McNeil will probably be able to do anything there. So this will be his third season. He's one of the first people that Brad Holmes drafted when he took over. His overall defensive grade last year was 69.8. Pass rush grade was 70.7, and run defense grade was 59.8, which wasn't up there with a lot of the others. But keep in mind, though, Aleem McNeil did have a role in limiting Saquon Barkley when the Lions defeated the New York Giants last year. So McNeil, or Big Mac, as they call him, is capable of anything here, in my opinion. And I think if the Lions defense is going to be successful in neutralizing Mahomes, and I'm not saying like Chiefs will put up 0 or 7 or 3 points, but because we know they're going to put up at least probably like 25 or 30. But to prevent it from getting to 40, 45, players like Aleem McNeil are going to have to consistently defeat the offensive line and being able to run down Mahomes and, get him to run backwards or keep turning around like Dan Campbell said. So talking about the Chiefs defense now, we don't know what Chris Jones is doing. It's looking like he's not going to be playing, and he was arguably one of the top defensive linemen in the last season. So some other players like George Karlaftis, the edge rusher, are probably going to have to step up, even though he's going to be going against Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker, so 2 of the top tackles in the NFL. And so good luck with him there. And I know he was a first-round pick, and he got overshadowed by Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau and those guys in that draft. But, he's there too, and I haven't forgotten about him. So, but yeah, the Chiefs last year, they were middle of the pack overall, kind of with their defense, while their offense was number 1. So they were actually kind of top 12 in yards per gain or whatever with the rushing game, but they were kind of in the top bottom 20, the bottom third when it comes to pass defense, though. So, take that for what it's worth, but they have been drafting for the defense. They've been drafting heavily the past couple of years, which brings me to my key player for them is Trent McDuffie, who was just drafted by them in the first round a couple seasons ago. And last year he had a overall PFF score of 74.9 with a pass rush grade of 71.75, a coverage grade of 75.1, and a run defense grade of 61.7. He did not have an interception last year, but he did have a forced fumble from what I saw. So I think this McDuffie is going to be one of those players who, he learned his freshman year, so to speak, and in his second year, his sophomore year, he could very well bust out and be an all-pro type of player. So he is only 5'11", though, and 193 pounds, but he could line up against the likes of St. Brown or Marvin Jones Jr. or Josh Reynolds. I don't think he'll probably do well against St. Brown, but the other two, or Khalif Raymond or whoever, he might do some things that will be an improvement there, because we know that Goff is going to pass the ball. The Lions want to primarily be a rushing team, but with the strategic type of plays that they do, they will pass the ball and get yards that way and score that way. And I think Trent McDuffie will probably be that one defensive player who's going to have to step up and stop them if their defense wants to be able to limit Detroit's offense there. So overall, I know Detroit was bottom of the league last year with a lot of stuff, but they did show improvement, and they drafted a lot of good rookies who look like they'll be preventing. Looks like they'll be day one ready to get in there. And their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, is good at switching players around and showing different packages of different formations and everything, which isn't a headache for the offenses to try to plan with. And not only that, but the Lions pretty much almost have a completely new secondary, and they have players like Levi Onwuzurike coming back on the defensive line who should be doing some really good things there. And with the Chiefs, I admit I don't know as much as I probably should, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be too many changes for them. Plus, their star defensive lineman is holding out for a contract, and he won't be around. You're relying on George Karlaftis and Trent McDuffie to really step up and have good sophomore years. So I think I'll give this check mark to Detroit. So just for the reasons I said, I think they'll have different players and playing different positions and showing different packages and different coverage formations, and because that's what Aaron Glenn likes to do, and it'll be a new look that nobody is used to, and additions of like C.S. Gardner-Johnson, that sort of thing. And whereas the Chiefs defense, you kind of have film on them for quite a while, and you kind of know what they're about. So check mark Lions there. Special teams. This one is interesting. When I checked PFF, the Lions, I guess, apparently had the top ranking grade, the number one for special teams, whereas the Chiefs kind of had like a number 10 or something like that, if I remember right. But it's kind of a mystery. It's one of those things that gets overlooked, but if there's too many screw ups, then you notice. But Detroit special teams could make or break a game for you. So for Detroit Lions, they have the likes of Riley Patterson as a kicker, who's accurate but not from too far away. They have a punter, Jack Fox, who's done consistently well over the last couple of years. And not only that, he can pass the ball too for trick plays, for special plays like that. And but the player I want to highlight for the Lions for their special team is Khalif Raymond, who's been a wide receiver, but he's really shown some stuff with punt return last year. So, and shout out to FTNFantasy.com as well as Dan Fornek for the special teams information that I'm about to talk about here. So, but anyways, last year with Khalif Raymond, when he was a punt returner, he might be a kick returner also this year, but I haven't heard anything yet about who's doing that. Raymond had 32.5 yards per kick return, as well as 13.2 yards per punt returned. And he had a punt return touchdown during that game against the Jets, which turned out to be one of the difference makers of that game. So you got to look out for Khalif Raymond doing a lot of damage when returning punts, maybe even kickoffs too. Kansas City Chiefs, like I said, I guess Harrison Butler's been consistent, but might slowly be declining. But the player with them I want to highlight is their punter, who's Tommy Townsend. He had an average of 45.6 net yards per punt last year. And he had a touchback rate of 7.5% and a 43.7 rate of punts inside the 20. So even if you are able to stop Patrick Mahomes from getting a first down, having their punter punt and put the opposing offense, the Lions offense, way back to start could be trouble there too. So, but as far as I can tell, the Chiefs special teams has done nothing yet to really wow me or show me like they have like an elite unit with special teams. So I'll give this check mark to the Detroit Lions. So because they just have all around, consisting with Riley Patterson, who was on the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. He kicked a game-winning field goal during their playoff game in that one, and he was really good for them too, even though the Lions cut him 2 years ago when he was their kicker then, and then they traded back to get him when they saw how good he was. So, and then Jack Fox will be good. Khalif Raymond should be good. And the Lions have, they really like to prioritize their special teams as best they can. A lot of their backup defensive players are studs on defense. So that's why I give the check mark to the Lions. 1 second. Oh, sorry about that. UPS dropped off a package and I was not expecting it then. So, all right. Anyways, down to the coaches. We'll start with the Lions. We obviously have Dan Campbell, Mr. Kneecap Biter, and, Mr. Yeah, Mr. Meathead type of guy. He's a good character. He's also, really smart. He's like that guy from that one movie that I'm drawing a blank on right now, The Big Lebowski. There we go. Like we all love him for it. Before he joined the Lions, though, he was an interim head coach for the Miami Dolphins for a bit. And, he's really good at pumping up his team and getting him motivated to play. And then he spent 5 seasons an assistant head coach under Sean Payton with the New Orleans Saints. Payton, who is, really offensive minded type of coach, with his years with the Saints and Drew Brees, they were like right up there, top 1, top 2 in a lot of offensive categories. And, with the likes of Alvin Kamara as weapons and having as many possible wide receiver targets who could get the ball at any point in time. And, he learned a lot from him, and Peyton is one of the top coaches in the NFL. And so he's got that experience there. He's prioritized, trying to get the, linemen really good, making them sure the Lions play hard and never give up. And, they got that grit, and we've seen him in Hard Knocks and everything. Lions offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, he had a first full year last year. He was kind of the quality control coach, and he helped out with the tight ends before their previous offensive coordinator, Anthony Lynn, was demoted and eventually let go when he wasn't doing things up to par. And, when that happened, Ben Johnson and Jared Goff and Dan Campbell got together and were inventing new plays. And right around the time when the Lions beat Arizona for their second win of that season, that's when we started to see that come to full fruition. And then Johnson eventually got promoted offensive coordinator, and we saw some of the trick plays and the different types of packages like that he was able to do to outsmart the opponents. Like think of the Penei Sewell pass to beat the Vikings and secure that win, or the pass to the tight end that scored that touchdown against the Jets and got that go-ahead play. So things like that have really propelled Ben Johnson to among top 1, top 2, top 3 offensive coordinators in the game, who very might well get a head coaching job somewhere soon if things go that way. The Lions were lucky that he didn't get a head coaching job somewhere else, and they wanted to stay and be a part of this organization because he believes the Lions were special there too. And then their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, he was with the Saints too, as well as Campbell. And when Campbell got hired, he brought him over, who was like their secondary coach, and made him the defensive coordinator. And as I mentioned earlier, Glenn is really likes versatile players who can play different positions and line people up in different formations, different play packages for his defense and that all that sort of stuff. And he's the game that the Justin Tucker broke the heart of Lions fans. Uh, he actually did a really good job of containing Lamar Jackson during that game, who was not effective at all with running the ball. So he does have some skill, I think, as a defensive coordinator, even though last year, the Lions defense was ranked toward the bottom, but that was really more of a talent issue, I think, in my opinion, with um, with players developing and, not having the pieces that they needed in the secondary up until now. So time will tell with how well he does this year. He might very well be a head coaching candidate as well if things go right for him. As far as the Chiefs go, Andy Reid, head coach, need no introduction. He's top one, top two head coaches in the NFL, probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. He spent several years with the Eagles, getting into several of the NFC Championship games with Donovan McNabb and a Super Bowl appearance in that one. And then he came over with the Chiefs, helped them rebuild, and got Patrick Mahomes, had him for a year, let him learn under Alex Smith. And now he's the Michael Jordan of the sport. And, he's an offensive-minded head coach, and his Kansas City Chiefs teams have been like top of the league in offense and for several years now, and they have 2 Super Bowl rings in recent years, and 3 Super Bowl appearances, and several NFC Championship game appearances. And their offensive coordinator, Matt Nagy, was quarterbacks coach. Before that, he was the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs a while ago. Then he left for a head coaching job with the Chicago Bears for a while until he got fired, and then he got brought back and eventually became the offensive coordinator here again. So he's been around quite a bit. And then the Chiefs defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo. Hopefully I did not butcher that name. He's in his 5th season with the Chiefs. He's been around. He's part of their culture and everything. He has 2 Super Bowl rings with them, so he does enough to get the job done, even though the defense isn't top number 1. But interesting fact about him, apparently he was part of the New York Giants team in 2007 when they won the Super Bowl there too. So this check mark, I think, Dan Campbell is somewhat of a newer head coach. Like, he's in his 3rd year. Ben Johnson's in his 2nd year as an offensive coordinator, and Lynn is in his 3rd year, entering his 3rd year as a defensive coordinator. Whereas the Chiefs people, Andy Reid and Matt Nagy, and I'm not going to try to pronounce his name again. They've been around for several years, like 5 years minimum, that sort of thing. So for that, for coaching, I'll give the check mark to the Chiefs there. My final verdict, I talked about this in a previous video, but I think this game is going to be a shootout. And I think everybody whose name on each team is going to do something to contribute to their offense or their defense or their special teams. So like players like Aiden Hutchinson will probably get at least a few pressures and get a sack at some point. And Mahomes is going to do his thing. We don't know if Travis Kelce is going to be healthy enough to play, but if he is, then he'll be a factor in them scoring points, even though you have rookies like Jack Campbell and Brian Branch, who are probably going to give him an unexpected challenge, whom the Chiefs probably don't have enough film to be able to watch them yet to know what Kelce would be up against there. But both teams have a really good offensive line. The Lions, I think their defensive line is improved to where they should be able to get more pressure, but that's going to be the key. Their defensive line, how often they can pressure Mahomes and stop him from getting first downs and big plays and touchdowns and that sort of thing, so that they can neutralize the scoring from like 45 to 50 down to 25 to 30. And the Lions running the ball, their rushing game, taking time off the clock and keeping the Chiefs offense and Mahomes off the field. will be the key there too. But for this one, I think it's going to be a shootout, and I think it's going to be a high scoring, and I think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to come down just so happens to be the Chiefs get the ball last or get it at the point of the end of the game when the correct point in time where they're able to get the go-ahead touchdown or field goal and squeak away with a win. So even though I'd love for the Lions to beat the Chiefs, and I do think they have the potential to beat the Super Bowl defending champions, I do have the Chiefs winning this game. So that's my primetime preview for this Thursday. Be sure to check the game out on Amazon Prime or Twitch. Or if you have NFL Plus like I do, then feel free to watch it there. And that's all I have for this video. And I do intend to live stream the game, so look out for me there. And feel free to join there if you want to. So until that game, go Lions, one pride.